Hello everyone, welcome. I feel like I have lived 10 lifetimes in these past 6 months that have passed in 2025 already. I can't believe the year's already halfway over, and at the same time, the last 2 months alone feel like years have passed. As far as my reading goes, it's also been an interesting year. I have here with me a stack of, I think, all of the books I've read so far this year. There might be a couple more that I don't have physical copies of, but since we are halfway through the year, I'm going to be doing the classic mid-year book freakout tag, which I've been doing for the last 10 years that I've been making videos, because as of next month, I'll have been doing this for 10 years. But reading-wise this year, I feel like I've been all over the place. I've read a total of 13 books. 3 of those are rereads, and I feel like I've been in a reading slump. I feel like I'm not reading as much as I want to be, or I just am not in the mood to read that much, but I've also been reading an absurd amount of fan fiction. If you count all the fan fiction I've read, I think I've probably read the equivalent of like 60 books this year, because I haven't stopped reading while being in this reading slump. It's just all fic. So yeah, there's that. I'm kind of getting out of that now. I've run out of fan fiction to read. And so we're turning back to actual fiction again, and some nonfiction, because I have started reading some more nonfiction this year. But yeah, today we're gonna go through and talk about all of the books I've read so far this year and go through the questions of this tag. But because I kind of wanted to do something else with this as well, I'm also going to talk about my favorite movies and TV shows I've seen this year. So we're gonna tie all of that in as well and talk about what I've been watching, because I've been watching some great stuff and there's just some stuff I really want to talk about, and I thought this would be the great place to do it. So we're gonna do the mid-year book, movie, TV show freakout tag and just tie all of that into one and talk about all of the media and art and stories that I have been consuming throughout this year. So let's get into it. Okay, I have to put those down. They're getting way too heavy. Another form of entertainment for me this year has been playing games, and in particular, I've been playing some fun app games to help me relax. And one of my current favorites is Midas Merge, and they are kindly sponsoring today's video. Midas Merge is a Merge 3 game where you combine different creatures and different objects to complete quests and further the storyline. One of my favorite things about the game is that the characters and the creatures are so cute, so it's really fun to combine them and try and make new characters and unlock as many of them as you can. The crystal fawns are definitely my favorite of the creatures so far. I just think they are so cute. And it's super relaxing to play because there are no ads and no dead ends, and also no Wi-Fi needed, so it's great if you're traveling, which allows you to just play continuously, which is exactly what I like from this type of game. And there's also a storyline behind the game where you join with Queen Lydia and King Midas to free the characters in the Gardens of Gold from Nyx, the goddess of night. The game is also free to download, and if you're among the first 100 people to use my link or QR code to install the game, you'll receive a unique Mox Fox level 1 that will boost your garden progress, and it will also have my name. So be sure to download it quickly and unlock this character. It's super relaxing and so much fun to play, and I can spend hours just sitting here enjoying my time. I also find it fun to play sometimes while I'm listening to an audiobook, so I can't recommend it enough. So be sure to use my link in the description box or the QR code on the screen to download Midas Merge today. Let me know which one is your favorite creature. And without any further ado, let's get into talking about all the books and movies and shows I've seen so far this year. Starting with question number 1, is the best book you've read so far in 2025? So again, we're doing best book, movie, and TV show, but starting with the book. So there are only 2 books I've rated 5 stars this year, and one of them, quite honestly, is probably more of a 4.5 or 4.75. I think I got swept up in my emotions of that book. Still love it, but it doesn't top this one. Easily the best book I've read so far this year is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I read this in February, and I haven't read anything nearly as good since. Sunrise on the Reaping does come close, obviously. I did rate that 5 stars, but again, it's a little closer to 4.5. But this is one of the best books I've ever read. This is the only book I've read this year where I was like, no, this is a new all-time favorite. I'm never gonna stop thinking about this. This makes it onto my Clockwork reader reading list, which I do need to do an updated version of. I truly cannot recommend this enough. It is unlike anything I've ever read. It's literary fiction about this man named, what is his name? I just forgot his name. Cyrus, however you want to pronounce it, or Kurosh if you really want to go the Persian way, but we'll go with the American pronunciation of his name, which is Cyrus. It's about this man named Cyrus who is obsessed with the concept of martyrdom, not in a religious sense, but just in the sense of dying with a purpose, dying for a reason, and he's a writer who's trying to write a novel, and to gain inspiration for his book, he decides to visit this artist who is doing a performance art piece at this art gallery in New York, and he decides to go there to visit her, to interview her, to talk to her about this idea that he has for his novel that he wants to write. It's exceptional. It is so good. The storytelling is non-linear. We jump back and forth in time. We have different forms of storytelling. At one point, we just like in the middle of the book have an entire section that kind of retells Ferdowsi's Shahnameh, which is like the story of kings. And it's fantastic. I literally can't stop thinking about it. It has forever altered my brain chemistry. I am so afraid that nothing is going to top this book this year, but honestly, like, I don't need anything to. This can be the best book I read this year, even though I read it in February. I will be reading anything that Kaveh Akbar writes from now on because his prose is beautiful, and I am just obsessed, utterly, utterly obsessed. Can't recommend this enough. You have to read it. Now, moving on, my favorite TV show that I have seen so far in 2025 easily has to go to Black Sails. To everybody who's been asking me to watch this for years, pat yourselves on the back. You knew what you were talking about, and I'm so sorry that I didn't listen to you sooner. This show is exceptional. This is like if you took the best parts of Game of Thrones and then made them better and then put them all in one show that is actually a prequel to Treasure Island, but you really don't need to know anything about Treasure Island in order to watch it, and also about the evils of the British Empire and how colonialism and empire destroy hope and love and life, and how holding on to those things through revolution is the only way we get out on the other side. And also pirates. Yeah, it's so good. One caveat I will say is that in the first season, there's like some more gratuitous violent scenes. It can be pretty difficult to watch at the beginning. If you've seen Game of Thrones, it's not anything you haven't seen before. Think of some of the more graphic violent scenes in Game of Thrones. There's a little bit of that. The show quickly gives up on that and there's not as much gratuitous violence. Yeah, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with this show. It is so, so good. I finished it and I immediately had to start watching it again because I liked it that much, and I can't recommend it enough. Again, thank you to everybody who's been recommending it to me over the years. If you recommended this show to me, please recommend me more shows because I know you have taste and I know I'll also like it, and I need more great shows to watch. So yeah, highly, highly recommend Black Sails. It's amazing. I have watched other really great shows this year as well, but this is just easily the absolute best. All right, and then for my favorite movie, I actually have two. I really can't pick one because they're so different from each other and I like them for entirely different reasons. But first we have Before Sunset. This is, I don't even know how to explain. It's unlike any other movie I've ever seen. It's actually the second movie in a trilogy, but I actually watched this one before I watched the first movie and I still haven't seen the third. So I watched it all out of order. You don't really have to watch the other ones in order to watch this one, and you can, from what I understand, watch them in any order. But I did go back and watch the first movie after I watched this because I liked it so much. But I still stand by the fact that the second movie is the best one. This movie is literally a 2-hour long, or however long the runtime of the film is, conversation with almost like no cuts in the camera. It's almost entirely like a single take. The camera does cut a few times throughout it, but like it's just one conversation that these two characters have walking around Paris, and they just talk to each other for these 2 hours. And they are former lovers who haven't seen each other in years, and they reunite on this one day, happen to run into each other, and then the whole film is just them having this conversation and reconnecting with one another. It is so beautiful. This is a masterwork in dialogue, in writing. I cannot believe how good the script is. It's unreal. It's just such an exceptional movie. Everybody should watch it. It is now my favorite romance film I've ever seen, I think. And it's just one of my favorite movies of all time, I think now. It's just so, so good. Can't believe it took me so long to watch it, but I can't recommend it enough. And then my other favorite movie that I've seen this year, totally different vibe, is Society of Snow. There's a lot of backstory here. First of all, I was going to watch this last year when it was nominated for an Oscar because I was trying to watch all of the Oscars films last year, but I never got around to it. And also the reason I decided not to watch it was because I found out it's a movie about a plane crash, and I have severe plane flying anxiety. So I always try and stay away from any kind of plane crash media idea. It's just not something that I do well with. However, the reason I watched this movie is because I was watching Yellow Jackets earlier this year, which we will talk about later, but I learned about the real story that Yellow Jackets was inspired by and in part based off of, which is Uruguayan Flight 571, which was a flight that crashed in the Andes Mountains in the 1970s, carrying this boys' rugby team. And so if you've seen Yellow Jackets, the similarities are very, very obvious. It's blatantly inspired by this real event that actually happened in the 1970s. And my friend recommended this podcast episode to me about Flight 571, and I listened to it, and I was just amazed by the story. I listened to that, I think in like February or something, and I haven't been able to get my mind off of it. And it was so inspiring and hopeful and heartbreaking, and it just flooded me with all of these emotions. And again, like I said, I couldn't get my mind off of it. And then I found out that Society of Snow, the movie that I'd wanted to watch last year, is about that story. It's an adaptation of a book that a journalist who knew some of the boys who were on that flight wrote about their experience. And the film is based on their real life experience of what happened when they crashed in the mountains. And it was made with the input of some of the boys, now men, who survived that experience. And it is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my entire life. The way that that movie made me cry, the hope that that movie gave me, the reminder that even at its worst, humanity can like still come together. And I know how cheesy and sappy this sounds, but like that love really does help you survive, that it conquers all. Community, like people coming together and forming community in the most dire circumstances, despite the fact that people love to feed you that it's every man for themselves and everyone will just defend themselves and only look out for themselves. That's just not true. People do come together. When people care for one another, that is when we can accomplish amazing things. Like, I know, again, that sounds so cheesy. And this is a dark film, okay? Like, definitely look up content warnings and stuff if you decide to watch it or you're interested in watching it, because it's not easy at all. But it's exceptional. And the story, the fact that it's real, and the real life story is actually more devastating and more upsetting and sad and more hopeful even than this incredible movie is. So I highly, highly recommend watching the film. But if you do watch the film, I also highly recommend doing some more research on the actual event and what actually happened. I'll link the podcast episode I listened to if you're interested in listening to it. It's about an hour or so, so it's not too long, but definitely worth the listen. I do want to read the book that the film is also inspired by, because I think I'd really enjoy it. And again, like I said, this is a story I cannot stop thinking about, and I don't want to stop thinking about it. So yeah, exceptional film, highly, highly recommend it. So worth the watch, even though it's so difficult. Okay, so question 2 is a question that's not actually on the list, but I always add this in because there isn't a place for the worst book or movie or show that I've read so far, but I do have to mention the worst because we love to be fair here. I talk about the best, we have to talk about the worst. I wouldn't say I've read anything this year that I hated or I would consider like just terrible or anything like that. Most of what I've read this year I've liked, but my biggest problem has been that almost everything I've read this year has just been mid. I haven't loved most of what I've read. It's just been mostly okay or not all that interesting or not all that inspiring, and I've just kind of felt dissatisfied with most things I've read. They're not particularly bad books. It's not that I think they're bad. It's just that I don't know, they're not doing it for me. So it's kind of hard to pick a worst, but unfortunately I think I am gonna have to go with Watermoon. This is a book that I actually picked for my book club this year. I think we read this in February. I don't know why I did everything in February, but I did. But yeah, this was one of the book club picks for my Fable book club, which if you wanna join, the link is always in the description. We just read a new book every month. So if you wanna help us pick our book for next month, be sure to go vote on that. My biggest problem was that I just thought that the main two characters who have like a romance between them, which is a driving force of this story, had no chemistry, and so it just really didn't work for me. And I unfortunately fell for the second lead. Second lead syndrome got me. It's sad and tragic every time that happens, but I was really rooting for that guy instead, and unfortunately it just didn't work out. But yeah, this has beautiful prose and there's some really great lines, but overall I just found it a little underwhelming, and the ending was a little rushed as well. So yeah, again, not a bad book, not at all, but it's still my lowest rated book of the year, which is 3 stars. So again, do with that what you will. As for worst show that I've seen so far this year, this is kind of hard because again, I haven't seen anything that I thought was like horrible, just some things that are kind of mid, and it's a little difficult to choose between them. I'm gonna be so real. The worst show I've seen this year, I think, is season 3 of White Lotus. I don't know if that's a controversial take. I don't really know how people felt about White Lotus. I I didn't love it. It was another thing that was just like deeply underwhelming. There were some funny moments, but overall nothing all that memorable other than that mom's name, who I cannot remember right now, that North Carolina family, and her just saying, "Piper, no," like over and over again. That's hilarious and I'm never gonna get that out of my head. But beyond that, there was nothing all that interesting about this season, in my opinion. I definitely preferred the second season, but overall, I just don't think White Lotus is my thing. So that's probably why I also didn't like this one that much. As for the worst movie I've seen this year, this one easily goes to Juror Number 2. First of all, I only watched this because it just showed up on HBO when I was looking for a movie to watch. I had no idea that this was a Clint Eastwood movie. I'm not a Clint Eastwood fan. I don't know what about me would make anyone think I am a Clint Eastwood fan, but I do need to clarify I'm not a Clint Eastwood fan, and if I had known that this was a Clint Eastwood movie, as in like directed by him, I would never have watched it in the first place. I didn't notice that until after the movie ended and I saw his name in the credits and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Ignoring the fact that this movie was incredibly racist and also misogynistic and had a lot of racial stereotypes, which again, unsurprising for a Clint Eastwood film. It was also just incredibly illogical. It's literally about this man who is called for jury duty, and the case that he's supposed to serve as a juror for ends up being a high-profile murder, and he's actually the one who committed the murder. He just doesn't remember because he was drunk. It's like a hit and run. He doesn't know if he did it or not. He thinks he did it, but he might not have done it. And so he's trying to like nullify the jury essentially. He's basically just trying to convince the jury that like they don't know if this guy did it or not. He's trying to get the case thrown out. And it's just like, it's really bad. I promise you, you don't need to watch it. I gave this 1 star. It is probably one of, maybe not the worst movie I've ever seen, but I'd put it on I have a Letterboxd list that's titled Movies I'd Make You Watch If I Hated You. I'd probably put it on that list. Okay, the real question number 2, or question 3 in this case, is best sequel that you've read so far this year. I'm only gonna answer this one for the book because I haven't watched any movies that are sequels, unless you count Before Sunset, so we'll give it to that one for the movie. And for TV shows, just other seasons. So we're just doing a book for this one, but this easily goes to Sunrise on the Reaping. I don't think I could choose anything else. You can blame her, Suzanne Collins, for the reason that I have done nothing but read fan fiction and not read any books essentially since I finished reading this in March, whenever this came out. The depressive spiral that this put me through, if you watched my last video, you saw. Yeah, I haven't gotten over it. Someone did ask me on Tumblr though my ranking for all of the Hunger Games books, and this is actually my least favorite of the Hunger Games books. Before You Come For Me, I still loved the book. I just think that the original trilogy, and controversially, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, are actually better than this one. Or I would say, as I said in response to that Tumblr post, technically just more necessary for the world. This, I just appreciate that we have it because I appreciate that we got Hamish's story. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I think honestly, like the world needed that in order to expand the universe of the Hunger Games properly. But again, still loved this. It broke me to pieces. I'm still unwell, but fantastic sequel, or prequel technically, but we're still counting it as a sequel. The next question is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. For books, maybe Ocean Vuong's Emperor of Gladness. I still haven't read that and I am very excited to read it. Or maybe one of Ava Reed's recent releases. I haven't read her dystopian Fable for the End of the World yet, which I do really want to read. So I am excited to pick either of those 2 up. I'm sure there are more that I'm also really excited to read, but I think those are the 2 at the top of my list as far as new releases go. For newly released TV shows, this is cheating a little bit because I am currently watching this right now, but I just started it. That is Andor season 2. I just watched season 1. Season 2 just came out a couple months ago, and so I just started that now. I've watched like the first episode at this point, and I am very excited to keep going. So surprised by how much I'm enjoying something that's new Star Wars. So yeah, very excited for that. And then for movies, I also have 2. The first one is Mickey 17. This was just added to streaming, so I can watch that soon. Anything Bong Joon-ho I will immediately watch, and also Robert Pattinson playing a weird quirky character. Always sign me up. So very excited to see how this goes. I have high expectations, so I'm hoping to not be disappointed. And then the other movie I really want to watch that just came out is Materialist. I think that might be the next thing I see in theaters because one, obviously Pedro Pascal, have to see this film, and also Celine Song making another throuple film. I don't actually know if that's what happens in this one, but I'm still very excited. The next question is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year. For books, there are two. One that I'm just dying to get my hands on. I want an ARC right now. And another one that I actually already have an ARC of, I just haven't read it yet. But the first one, which is definitely my most anticipated, is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sengu Mandana. This is the author of The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which is to this day still my favorite romance novel. I love that book. And this is her second romance novel that's kind of in the same vein. I don't know if it takes place in the same world or not, but I'm very, very excited for this. This is exactly the type of fluffy, fun, lighthearted, but still intricate romance with a little bit of fantasy that I just eat up and love. So very excited to pick this up later this summer. And then the other book that I am excited to read is, of course, Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. This one I do have an ARC of already. It is literally on my iPad, ready for me to read whenever I want to, and I just haven't. To be fair, I have been in somewhat of a reading slump, so that makes sense. But I am also just a little nervous, I won't lie. I'm afraid I won't like it. I've also recently been feeling my reading tastes changing and shifting, and I've been reading different things, or I've been into different things than I was into before. I just have been feeling differently about some of R.F. Kuang's work, so now I'm anxious that I won't like this one. I don't know, we'll see, but I am still excited to pick it up. So hopefully I'll get around to it sometime soon, but we'll see when that happens. I'm just such a moody reader that you can never tell. As for most anticipated release for TV shows, I actually don't have any TV shows that I'm really anticipating. I don't think there's anything that I watched that's coming out this year in the second half of the year, but I do have two movies. First and foremost, obviously, Wicked Part 2. So excited for this, in particular because I just need to hear No Good Deed. No Good Deed is like top 3, if not top 1 favorite musical theater songs for me. Love that song. And also For Good, that song's like really special to me, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this movie to come out. And then actually the movie I'm most excited for this whole year is, of course, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which I think should be coming out at the end of this year. I can't wait. I do not have the words to express how excited I am for that. He is one of my favorite filmmakers. I am a huge Crimson Peak fan. I love Pan's Labyrinth. I've still never seen The Shape of Water, so I do need to watch that one. But yeah, I just know that he's going to do exceptional things with this Frankenstein adaptation, and I can't wait. The next question is biggest disappointment, and for books, this unfortunately, again, this doesn't mean it's a bad book. It wasn't a bad book, and I will be reading the sequel and any sequel that follows it. But still, for me, this has to go to Air by Sabaa Tahir. Again, another book that I picked for my book club. I'm so sorry, y'all, that I am picking books that are just not hitting, at least not hitting for me. I hope you guys are enjoying them. So here's the thing. My biggest problem with this is that I think this book is just set up. I can't judge it because it feels like a prologue essentially to whatever is going to be in the remainder of the series, and so it just feels like a ton of setup and buildup to kind of nothing because not much happens in this book. Events obviously transpire, things do happen, but it's mostly just like a lot of buildup to a big climactic moment that we haven't really gotten to yet. So yeah, that's why I find this kind of disappointing. It's just not on the same level as the original Ember in the Ashes series, in my opinion, but it has potential to get there with the following books in the series. So I am still excited to read the rest of them, obviously. I just thought that I would end up loving this first book a lot more than I did, and it ended up just being kind of an okay, underwhelming experience for me. As for TV shows, my biggest disappointment has to go to a show I mentioned earlier that I said we'd get back to. It has to go to Yellow Jackets. So here's the thing. I started Yellow Jackets because it was online everywhere. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was telling me I have to watch it because it's really good and I'd enjoy it. And I love cannibalism as metaphor, as symbolism. And I love horror and gothic horror. So I was like, I should watch this show. It seems like everything I like. However, I started the show, I think I had a very different picture in my head of what this show was like than what it actually ended up being like. It's kind of a dark comedy, which is not a problem. It's just I was not anticipating comedy in this on any level. I was expecting like Hannibal, like NBC's Hannibal, but that's not what this show is like at all. Again, totally fine. That's not the show's fault. That's me going into it with different expectations. But the reason that this ended up being a disappointment is because I learned about Flight 571 and the real story behind that and how much of the story of Yellow Jackets pulls from that real life story, and how much it, in my opinion, trivializes and is insensitive towards and is exploitative of that original story, especially in regards to the use of the cannibalism. Again, I understand that it's not the same story. Like, they're not trying to just tell that story, but they pulled so much from the original story. I mean, the similarities are just undeniable. Yellow Jackets takes place in the 90s versus the 70s, but still set in a different time. And a sports team is on their way to a competition and their plane crashes. This is a girls' soccer team versus a boys' rugby team. But it's like yeah, you can look at my homework, just don't copy the answers directly. And so they changed a few things here and there. The similarities are endless. It's a really religious school that these girls go to versus the real boys who were in a Catholic school, and religion plays a heavy role in both of the stories, in the real story and in the Yellow Jackets. I mean, even the roles that certain characters take on in Yellow Jackets are definitely inspired by the roles that certain boys took on during the real event. So now, to me, watching Yellow Jackets just feels insensitive. Like, it just feels like they are exploiting a very real, a very traumatic event that happened to real people who experienced intense consequences, like severe consequences, simply because they did what they needed to do to survive. And the show feels like it's just reopening that wound. I don't care if people love Yellow Jackets, like, that's fine. I just now feel uncomfortable watching it, and I also didn't like it enough anyway that it would have made me keep watching it to begin with if I didn't even know anything about this. So yeah, that is why that is the biggest disappointment to me. So that's why I won't be continuing Yellow Jackets. I watched like the first couple episodes, maybe 3 or 4 episodes of season 3. So I got that far into it, but I have no intentions of continuing on. Okay, as for movie biggest disappointment, this is going to hurt some people's feelings, and I'm so sorry. I'm very sorry. You can mute me if you don't want to hear me talk about this, and I'm honestly not going to talk about it for that long. But for me, this has to go to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I didn't like this. I didn't hate it, but I just didn't like it. I get what other people see in it. I don't like it. I don't think it works. I also just can't stand Jim Carrey as an actor, so I don't think that really helps that he plays the main role. The type of humor in this movie is just not my thing, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like it, I'm so sorry. Barring like a few bits of really well-written dialogue and the one monologue that Kate Winslet gives in the bookstore, she works at Barnes & Noble, I forgot. Barring like those couple of moments, those few scenes, I did not click with this. The only way I know how to describe this is in relation to another movie I also really didn't like, which is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I feel like this movie has exactly the same type of humor that I just don't find funny, and exactly the same vibe, atmosphere, and energy as that movie does. And this is probably better than The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and also better than the other movies I'm about to reference, so you can definitely place this a little bit above it, but the energy felt the same. It has the same energy as those like white people dog movies that, like, you know, white people go feral over those like sad dog movies where like the dog dies and it's just about some like white family and their 2 kids and white picket fence. Like Marley and Me, which I've never even seen, but like vibe-wise, or A Dog's Purpose, or whatever like those dog movies are. You know what I mean? That's what the energy of this felt like to me on some level. It was different, again, it was different, but there's a thing there. But anyway, the movie wasn't for me. If you love it, I'm glad for you, but just not really my thing. So that's my biggest disappointment. The next question is biggest surprise. My biggest surprise is gonna go to Monstreal. This is a book that was recommended to me by one of my Tumblr followers. Again, that's where everything happens. That's where we're all chatting. And I'm taking people's recommendations and actually reading them for once in my life and watching shows people recommend me. Monstreal is a horror novel that is about this mother and father whose son passes away, and he had a lung condition, and his mother cuts out a piece of his lung and keeps it with her, and then this piece of lung becomes sentient and then grows into a creature. Yes, it's a book about a sentient piece of lung. I really enjoyed this. This is not like a new favorite or anything like that, but it was a fascinating read. I will say, I do think the first half of the book is much better than the second half, at least for me. If you like horror, if you like weird body horror, especially in like lit fic, then highly recommend. It's super weird. It's very gay. It's dark. It forces you to question a lot of things, a lot about your body and your autonomy, which I really enjoyed. I think it's a very interesting book. It's unlike anything I've read before, and it really took me by surprise. So thank you to the person who recommended this to me on Tumblr. For TV shows, my biggest surprise has to go to The Sopranos. I finally watched the entirety of The Sopranos. I'd never seen The Sopranos before, and barring like a few bits and pieces of the show, and barring like parts of the last season in particular, I get why people call this one of the greatest shows of all time. Yeah. Yeah. What I didn't expect, and the reason I'm choosing this for biggest surprise, is because especially in the first couple of seasons of this show, I did not expect this to be a show that is along the same lines of like, actually obviously like the precursor to shows like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Mad Men, and those types of Don Draper, Walter White archetypes. Tony Soprano is the original. And I guess I just like never put that together, or it didn't click for me that this is a show about toxic masculinity. It's a show about how his need, and in particular, these men in this specific scenario, being in the mob, have to hold on to masculinity, and their desperate need to cling to masculinity is the reason they are suffering, is what is detrimental to their lives and their ultimate happiness. And that is what the show is about. Like, I didn't realize that the Tony Soprano is literally just in therapy the entire time, and the whole show is basically just him talking to his therapist as he's trying to work through his shit while he's also committing crimes on the side. But I guess I just didn't expect the show to be so explicitly about what patriarchy does to everybody, in particular to men, and how it affects their identity. And it's incredible. It's so well written. Again, it's a product of its time. It's super racist, super homophobic, super sexist, but it is also incredibly self-aware a lot of the time, which, again, unexpected. I don't know why I didn't expect this show to be like that, because honestly, a lot of media made in the late 90s, early 2000s was actually kind of more self-aware than a lot of stuff we see now. Mostly because I think writers were actually paid well and allowed to write, and now everyone isn't paid and is being censored. And obviously that's not true across the board, but The Sopranos is actually very, very, very well written. In terms of like character study, like this is such an incredible show. And it also has what I would now consider one of the greatest lines ever written in television in the first season alone, which is "Cunnilingus and psychiatry brought us to this," which is iconic. Iconic, and I say it now all the time. So yeah, easily has to be my biggest surprise show. I kind of love The Sopranos. Again, not the biggest fan of some parts of that last season. We get a little bit too into 2001, and then like the show gets too much of that military-industrial complex, American propaganda push, and then it's not so enjoyable at times. But earlier on, that was some of the best writing I've ever seen on TV. It's truly so, so good. Okay, the next question is favorite new author, and for this, I'm just gonna pick a book. I struggle saying that this is my favorite new author, but I did get really into this author, so we're gonna pick her for this because I'm just fascinated now by Virginia Woolf. I read The Waves earlier this year. I'm in a book club with a few friends who live nearby me, and this is like my in-person book club that I go to. And we read The Waves over the past like couple of months, and I became just utterly obsessed and fascinated by Virginia Woolf, her life, her perspective. I read so many essays about The Waves in particular, and I watched some lectures about Virginia Woolf so I could learn more about her as a person and her history, her life. Low-key was like, am I considering being a Virginia Woolf scholar at this point? I don't know why I got so into this. It was not necessary. Our book club is not that serious. But I don't know. I just got like super, super into the themes of this book, and I wanted to know more about her. And now I just really kind of want to read the rest of her work. Being in this book club has actually made me start to annotate a lot more. I used to always just like tab my books if I liked a line here or there, but now I kind of write and highlight in almost every single one. I usually put like sticky notes and stuff because I don't want to like actually write in it in case I change my thoughts or something. But yeah, I just kind of annotate everything, which is another reason why I've kind of been reading a little slower and reading a lot less because I've kind of just been savoring everything I read. I don't know, I used to read as much as possible, which I don't think is a problem, and I think I will still always do that on some level. But lately it's been kind of nice to slow down and to take more time with everything I read so that I can really let it sink in, and I feel like I was able to do that with The Waves. I didn't even like love this book or anything. I just really enjoyed the process of reading it. I think I will like other Virginia Woolf books better than this, but I don't know, something about her prose and her style kind of forces you to sit down and slow down and take in every single word, because it will make no sense if you don't force yourself to truly pay attention. And I think my brain needed that. So yeah, I don't know that I would consider her a favorite author yet, considering I've only read the one book, but she's definitely the author that has piqued my curiosity the most. So that's why she's getting this spot on this list. Fascinating person, deeply depressed, deeply hypocritical in a lot of ways. Her art was very telling of her political views, but she also lived her life in a way that was contradictory to some of her political views. And she was also very anti-fascist, but also incredibly racist at the same time. And it's just so interesting to me. Like, what a complex woman. And I just have so many questions about her. So I definitely want to read more books by her, which is why I'm giving her this spot. Again, I wouldn't call Virginia Woolf one of my favorite authors, not at all, but she's definitely someone I want to read more work from, because I need to know more. I'm so curious. Will I love one of her books? I don't know. I didn't love this, but it did make me want to read more. The next question is newest fictional crush. I don't really have fictional crushes anymore. Although, you know what, I will say, not from a book, but from the TV show Black Sails, Charles Vane. Not a fictional crush. I guess we can just combine this with favorite character, which is I think what I usually do. Charles Vane, please. I love when a show makes you go from hating a character to absolutely loving them and willing to put your life on the line for them. That is how I feel about Charles Vane. If you watch Black Sails and you start off the show and you're like, Hannah, what are you talking about? How could you possibly like Charles Vane? Exactly. Keep watching. Keep watching. Yeah, love him. Absolutely love him. Why am I doing the Gen Z heart? Sorry, I have to go back to my millennial core. Actually, you know what? I'm cusp, so I can do both of them. I don't really care. Anyway, love Charles Vane. He's definitely my new favorite fictional character that I've discovered this year. Next, we have book that made you cry. Insert the clip of me sobbing.
And they took care of him. Oh my god, I can't stop. I literally can't stop crying.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, we know. We know. For a show that made me cry though, I have to go with Arcane. Arcane made me sob a lot. I also sobbed during parts of Black Sails for sure, but Arcane really made me sob. This is also one of the best shows I've seen this year. Also a big surprise for me. Wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, and I ended up really loving it. I have since rewatched it since the first time I watched it, and I think I like it actually significantly less than I did the first time I finished it. I think I was just so emotional because I cried. Like, I cried a lot. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it. So yeah, that one made me cry so much. And then for movies, it's a toss-up between Moonlight and Society of Snow. I think Society of Snow technically made me cry more, but I haven't talked about Moonlight yet. So we'll go with Moonlight for now. Incredible film. I hadn't watched it until this year and I loved it. It made me sob. It was so good. Highly, highly recommend. Doesn't need my recommendation. It's such a famous movie, but it is definitely worth the hype. Okay, the next question is a book that made you happy. I don't read anything that makes me happy. What's a book that made me happy? Rereading The Hunger Games, that did not make me happy. Actually, that just made me more depressed. I did read A Great Big Beautiful Life. I guess I could have included this for disappointment as well, but it wasn't that disappointing. Like, I just thought it was okay. I just wasn't like amazed or anything, but I wasn't expecting to be, so it was fine. This was like happy at times. It was kind of fun. Maybe Persuasion. I reread Persuasion this year. This kind of made me happy. I don't know, I'm gonna be so real. Nothing I've read this year has really made me happy. I don't read to be happy. I read to distract myself from my own depression with other people's depression. Let's see if there are any shows or movies that made me happy. I also don't watch happy things, so yeah. No, the happiest thing I've seen, or the least depressing thing I guess I've seen so far this year is Girls, which I haven't finished. I'm like on season 3, I think. I like hate the show. I'm watching it because my sister asked me to. So there's that. The only K-drama I've seen this year is When Life Gives You Tangerines. And that was really sad. Oh, that's a show that made me cry. So that definitely didn't make me happy. Are there any movies? Oh, you know what? You know what made me happy? Loving Vincent. That made me happy because that movie is genuinely like a miracle to me that it even exists, because the entire thing is animation and it's all painted and painted by hand, which is incredible. Like, watching it feels unreal because you feel like it can't be possible that that was all done by hand, and it was. It's truly incredible, and I wish that we could make more movies like that, but now they would just make something like that with AI. So the existence of that makes me happy. The existence of the movie Loving Vincent, because it proves to us that we don't need AI in order to create art like that. We can create a film like that, animation like that, by hand, painstakingly, with love over years and years and years. And the dedication that was put into making that film absolutely comes through. So yeah, that's what we're gonna go with. That's the happiest I've been this year. Okay, then the next question is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. I have a few. Obviously, we're just going with books for this one, but let me get them off my shelf. So I mentioned, I think last year, that I got really into collecting some leather-bound classics, leather-bound editions of books that I really like. And I went to LA with my friend about a month or so ago now, and we stopped by this rare and antiques used bookstore, and they had some gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous editions of the Franklin Library classics, which are some of the ones that I have been looking for. I've been trying to find these and like Easton Press books for like a relatively decent price, because they can get incredibly expensive. And I'm not trying to spend an insane price on a single book. So when I can find them for a decent price, I always try and snatch up the ones that I've been looking for. And I have a whole running list. And I found a few. One of them is one I actually ordered online, and these two are two of the ones I bought from the bookstore. First of all, this is the only one I haven't read of the books that I bought, but it's one I do plan to read, and an author I read for the first time this year as well, and that is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. Look how gorgeous this leather-bound edition is, with the gold gilded pages as well. I'm obsessed with these. They look so good on the shelf. Like, look at that spine. Oh, obsessed. If I don't like Crime and Punishment, we don't need to talk about it. I'm still gonna keep this book because it's so pretty. But I am very happy to have this. And then the other book that I picked up there is one that I've had on my list for so long, this edition in particular that I've been looking for so long, and I was so happy I found it there. It's Shakespeare's tragedies. So they have the tragedies, the histories, and the comedies. I would like to have all three, but this is the one I wanted first, at least, the tragedies, because they're my favorites. Yeah, look at this. Look how pretty it is. This red leather, it's unreal. Unreal. It's so pretty. Oh my god, I'm gonna hit myself in the face. Yeah, obsessed with both of these. So these are two of the ones I picked up there. I also got a copy of The Great Gatsby while I was there, leather-bound as well, part of this same collection. But I think my favorite, this one I bought myself online, so not from that bookstore. My favorite has to be this, because this is one of my favorite classic novels of all time, and that is this gorgeous, gorgeous, like burgundy leather edition of Wuthering Heights. Yeah, do you see this? She's gorgeous. I'm obsessed. This one even had the original notes from the editor's thing in it. If I can get it back in, there we go. I love her. She sits right here on my shelf. Yeah, you can't see that. I love these editions so much. I would love nothing more than to have an entire library just made up of leather-bound books. I wish that they would bind non-classic books like this. I know you can have them professionally bound, like you can find someone online who binds books and have a book bound for you, but it costs like hundreds of dollars per book. And I don't have that kind of money, so I'm not gonna be doing that anytime soon. So these are gonna be things that I collect slowly over time, which is fine. I don't mind that. I like building my library slowly, and it makes it feel more special anyway. And then last but not least, the final question is, what books do you still need to read before the end of the year? Honestly, just my general TBR. The TBR I made at the beginning of this year, I still want to read every book that's on that list. I am currently in the middle of Parable of the Sower, which we are reading for my in-person book club with my friends. So I'm about to finish rereading that, and I need to read Parable of the Talents before the end of the year, so that's another one I want to read. But beyond my 2025 TBR that I made for myself, the one thing that's currently on my list that I really want to read before the end of this year, just because, I don't know, I'm in this mood. I just mentioned Crime and Punishment, but the Dostoevsky book that I actually really want to read is The Brothers Karamazov, which I just bought a copy of because I was listening to this on audio, and then I was like, this is not gonna work. I cannot pay attention. I was not vibing with the narrator, and also I needed the physical text in front of me. So I bought a copy so that I can, oh, things are flying everywhere. I bought a copy so that I can annotate it as I read, because at this point, that's kind of my favorite way to read now. Like, I have to annotate, I have to highlight. Even if I have an audiobook, like I still write down notes or quotes that I liked or something, because I just need to keep track of them. So yeah, this is ambitious, but I feel like I might end up doing it. I don't know, it just feels right now. So I don't know, maybe we'll make it into a whole video and I'll read this behemoth of a book. As for movies and TV shows, like I mentioned, Andor I have to finish before the end of the year. I will be finishing that this week probably. And for movies, it's really only the new ones that are coming out and the new releases that I have on my list. There's nothing else where I'm like, no, I have to watch that before the end of the year. So yeah, we'll just wrap it up with Brothers Karamazov for that one. But there you all have it. That is it for the mid-year book, movie, TV show freakout tag, which is my own Frankenstein's monster version of this tag. But nonetheless, I hope you all enjoyed watching this, and I hope you enjoyed hearing me yap about everything I have read and watched this year. I plan to do an updated favorite movies and TV shows video because several of you have been asking for that, and I've watched a lot of movies and seen a lot of shows since I last made that video. So I definitely plan to do that soon, but the next video you'll be seeing from me will be me trying to force myself to finally read some more books, finish some more books, get out of my fan fiction reading slump. Well, my book reading slump and reading only fan fiction. So get out of my fan fiction phase again and get back into reading my actual physical TBR and try and find another 5-star book, because I can't finish this year off only having read one 5-star book. So you'll be getting a reading vlog about that very soon. I'm in the middle of filming that right now. But beyond that, if you want to catch up with me anywhere, all of my social media are linked in the description box below. But like I said, I'm mostly on Tumblr these days and occasionally on Instagram. Send me an ask over there and we can chat. Let me know in the comments down below what is the best and worst book, movie, and show you have read and watched this year. I'm very curious to know, and I will also be compiling a list. And don't forget to join my book club on Fable if you want to help vote for our July book. I have not decided what I'm going to put on that poll yet, but we will see. So if you have any suggestions, leave them down below. I'm also thinking about maybe starting like a movie club on there too, so that we can watch different movies together as well and discuss them, because I know you can make movie clubs on there too. So we shall see. If that's something you guys are interested in, let me know. And again, don't forget to check the link in my description to download and play Midas Merge today. But yeah, that pretty much covers it for today. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye!